Hey gang, I hope we're all doing well and everyone had a good weekend. So I'm back, we're still working on the multi-genre. What I've done this week, what I want to do this week is I want to look at a step that's kind of an optional step. So if you feel that step 4, you've already done your summary and you've already put together your connections, right? Then we're going to move on to GCO7, which is reading something critically. So what I want us to do is take one of our works and we're going to read critically. I'm going to put that up as a form that's a separate form, right? It's not included in your multi-genre. It was included in my original, but I didn't put it on as compulsory for this because we're working at home. So those of you who still have to do your summary and you have to do your connections, work on that. And those of you who are finished that, while we're waiting to move on to the next step or planning for it, we're going to work on reading critically. Okay, so reading critically is something that's a little bit different than what we've been doing. It's not just my opinion on something. Um, I have to bring in some ideas, not just things that it reminds me of. I got to bring in some ideas and analyze the text. So what I wanted to use for that is the United Colors of Benetton ad that I have placed up there. So we're going to read it critically, and then we're going to think of 3 different features that we're going to talk about and kind of just write a quick critical analysis of those 3 features. But first, before we do, we're going to look at the ad. So I'm going to actually put the ad up right here so that you can look at the ad while I'm going to talk over it, okay? So I'm going to do that here, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so here we go. This is the ad. Um, This is an ad from 1991, so I would have been in high school. I would have been your age. I graduated in '92, so this was a very controversial ad when I was about your age. Um, it was put out by a clothing company called the United Colors of Benetton. So the United Colors of Benetton were actually known for being one of the first Western clothing companies that was really putting people of color in their ads. Because believe it or not, when I was in high school, almost all advertising was really like 95% or more was people who were Caucasian, white people. It did not have people who were brown. It did not have people from other ethnicities um, and even cultures or cultural garb. Right? It was very interesting. Um, it was it's very interesting how much things have changed since then. United Colors of Benetton was one of the very first to start putting ads up that had people of color. But when they put this ad up, it created controversy from from people who said that they were actually giving into and promoting stereotypes. And one way that they were doing it was through hair. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but I just want to look at it and notice what we have going on here. So it's a clothing ad. There's nobody with clothing in it. That's typical of clothing ads. So that's something, that's a whole other discussion. But we have two children, and the children are kind of, I think, androgynous. In other words, it's hard to tell if they're male and female or both males or both female, right? They're kids. So we know that. But I want to look at what we're noticing. So if we notice things like, one thing that I notice is just the lighting of this, right? The lighting is like, it's so bright in the background and backlit. It's almost like this kind of stereotypical kind of heavenly image. So you're there and you're looking at it and it looks like, okay, this is kind of a heaven image, something's going on. But color is really important too, and specifically the contrast between the very light, fair-skinned child with the blue eyes and the blonde hair, and the much darker brown child, black hair, brown, dark, deep brown eyes, right? So we have those things that are happening in the picture. So in a lot of ways, that's it's quite positive, right? But there's the hair, right? Because this is what my project's about. It's about hair, and we have those blonde ringlets on the white child, and on the black child we have the hair shaped kind of up into what a lot of critics said looked like horns, and a lot of people. were upset. They said, well, what's going on here? This looks like an angel and a devil, right? In the way that it's set up. So why? Why are we stereotypically having this white child present as an angel with a blonde curly hair like you would see in old paintings of angels or cherubs, right? And the black child with the traditional, with a kind of a traditional African American hairstyle, but trimmed up to look like horns, to look like a devil. So this is what created controversy. All right. So the things that I'm noticing, like I say, are the color, the contrast of the colors. Right. It wouldn't be controversial if the children were the same color. Right. If we had the children the same. We do have this eye level um, looking at us, so it suggests there's a lot there to suggest some sort of equality, right? It's not like we have one looking down on the other. The subjects are hugging, they are looking at us this way, but that color, that kind of racial contrast, and the hairstyles made this something that was very controversial. So take a really good, quick last look at this, and then I'll meet you back and we'll talk about my three features and my comments on all three. All right. All right. So that's the ad. Those are my thoughts as I look at it, right? So I might mark the ad up if I had a paper copy. If not, I might just take some notes. And then my project next is to just think of three features that I want to give a critical analysis to. It's very much like the book report that we did, right? Where you could talk about paneling, or you might talk about the word choice, or you might talk about the chapter length, or talk about plot or characterization. Like that's what critical analysis is, right? We're saying how can we pull this into its parts and look at its parts and analyze what's going on. So I have some features. I've got it written over here, so you're going to see me looking this way. So for that ad, I have one feature is lighting. I chose lighting as a feature. So my comments are that, as I said, there's a glowing aspect to the picture, and that comes from this bright light shining in from the right side. It creates this sharp contrast between the lit areas and the shadows. And then we have the background. It's a really bright light that looks like backlighting. So the overall effect is like, it's heaven, right? It's kind of this heavenly scene, heavenly place. Okay. So, and everybody's in blissful harmony, right? We're hugging, everything's good. So we have that. Then I have feature number two, and that's just the models and the subjects themselves. So they're children, okay? But the camera angle doesn't put them lower than us. It puts them eye level with us. They look at us. We look back, so it doesn't diminish them. They're also equal to one another. They're the same height, if you remember the picture. They're holding one another in a hug and an embrace, so that's a good thing. That shows some equality. And even their gender is uncertain, so there's some equality there, right? It's not like this male-female thing going on, where one's more powerful than the other. And the overall effect seems to be like this is suggesting racial equality, gender equality, and even age, right? Because they're kind of looking at us. We're not looking down on them. But then it gets tough because I want to go. My last thing was color, right? So color is important in this picture, and there's where my main critique comes in. One child's white, the other's black. So in keeping with this heavenly lighting, we have the white child is a stereotypical angel figure, right? Blue-eyed, blonde-haired, white tooth, smiling, like you would see in one of those old paintings. But the black child is different, right? They take on an image of almost a devil. Why? The hair. The black hair is done up in this traditional style, but it's done up in a way that kind of reinforces a message in contrast with that white child that's done up with the ringlets. And in the context, that hair actually looks like orange, right? It looks like a contrast. So that's where the ad's message kind of gets jumbled. That's where the controversy comes in. Instead of breaking down stereotypes with angels of different races, which that would have been a very interesting ad, it kind of reinforces a stereotype, right? It paints that black child as evil, as being a devil, not a fellow angel. So that is my critique, right? So the critique. Now, what I have here is lighting, model, subjects, color. You might not be doing your visual. Maybe you're doing a story. So maybe you want to talk about the characters, or the pace, or the word choice, right? Do you find that things move too fast? Do you find that the story is believable? Do you find that the characters are likable? Something like that, right? That would be what we might do for a story. For a song, we might say, I really like the chorus. The rhyme works really good. I like the sound of this. I like the music. Or I don't like the word choice. I think that it seems like it's too difficult maybe for me to follow, or vague, right? So you can talk about things you like and don't like, but you're just breaking down different features. Okay? So that's your job for critical analysis. If you find that you're having trouble thinking of features, if you go back to your book report, the sheet with the book report has different types of features for books, but some of them qualify for a lot of other things. So what are 3 features, and what is your critique of them? That's all your job is. This one's optional, but if you have the other 2 done, then let's work on that this week, and then next week we'll really get to work on step 5, which is creating our own pieces, not analyzing pieces by other people. All right, guys, have a good week. I might come back at the end of the week just to talk about self-assessment a little bit, but this is a job for the week, and whatever you didn't finish from last week. Thanks. Bye-bye.